Next, we will now allow users to upload an image for new employees. And we'll use for that the input file. You may be thinking, where did that image come from? He didn't upload one. Well, that will fix now. I'm going to allow the user to, when creating a new employee, also include a picture. To keep things simple, I'm only going to allow the user to select a picture when a new employee is being created. And I use for that here an input file that when on change will call code the onInput file change. I don't have that yet, so let's add that now. In the onInput file change, I will get back input file change event args. I hope you remember that we can get in some default event args. Well, for the input file, that is of type input file change event args. That will give me access to the file selected by the user. In fact, the browser, and therefore also our Blazor application, will get access to the file selected in the browser. So at this point, my Blazor application has access to the file, but I don't have the ability to store that image just yet. I'm going to change that. I'm going to extend my employee type with a byte array and an image name. Let's go to the shared project, domain, and employee. And as said, I'm going to extend this with a byte array, image content, and an image name property. I've added here also not mapped. The not mapped I'm using because I don't want to store the image in the database. I want to store the image in the file system. I'll show you that in just a minute. And with that added, I also need to make sure that my database is in sync again. I'm going to create a migration. With the API selected as default project, I'm going to create a migration by specifying here in the package manager console, add migration. I'm going to say here, image added. That's the name of the migration. A build will trigger, and the migration is created. We can now indeed see in the migration that only a column was added for image name. And with the migration added, let's do update database. To run the migration, of course. And it has now successfully run. Now, in my component, in the handle valid submit, I need to write some code. If the selected file, that was this one here, isn't null, so in other words, if the user has selected a file, I'm going to read in that file in the Blazor application. And that I do using this code here. Then I specify the image name to be the file name, and the image content is set to the array, the byte array of the read-in image file. That will now be sent to my API endpoint, but that doesn't know about that incoming image just yet, so I need to make a change there as well. You may have noticed that there was some code already commented out. Uncomment the code that I created for you to handle reading in an image in the API. This code is going to store the image on the server. I'm going to create the path to the file name based on the employee.imageName. I'm going to then read the file stream. I'm going to then create a file stream, and I'm going to write to that the image content that came as part of the employee. And finally, I store the updated image name in the employee before saving to the database. The uploaded images will be stored in this uploads folder under the www.root. That folder was already there if you are using my project. One more thing, let's return to our employee card, and you see what I'm using to currently show the images. I have this image tag, and then use a concatenated string, passing in the employee ID.jpg, so I had a number of images already on there. I'm going to replace that with what you see here. I'm going to now set the source of the image to the image name. On the controller, I stored the full path to the uploaded image. So of course the already existing employees won't work anymore, but let's try adding another new one, and we should see that uploaded image. When we now run the application again, and we click on Add New Employee, we can now see that we get the ability to choose a file. I select an image. Let me enter some details here. Let's click on Save Employee. That went successfully. If we go back to the overview now, we'll see a couple of images missing. Those are using the alt links. But George, however, is showing with an image, and that is the uploaded image. If we look in Visual Studio in the Uploads folder, we indeed see that person 1 has been uploaded.